Hello, everyone. Today's date is the 14th of September 2024, and the time has definitely speeded up. It's already September, and it'll soon be Christmas around the corner. I can't believe how quickly this year has gone. I can't believe how time just keeps increasing and getting faster and faster. And then I get days where it seems to slow down, maybe for a whole day or a few hours or even a few minutes or half an hour or an hour. But most of the time, it definitely has speeded up. This evening, we have Alan James with us, who I'm hoping will be here joining us on a weekly basis. And I would like to introduce him actually. I'd like to introduce him as a new member of the team, because this group feels very much like a team. And at the moment it is a closed group. It's not really open to everyone, although it was in the beginning. But for now, and it might change in the future, but for now, it is a closed group. So yeah, a big fat welcome to Alan James, who is the founder of Circle of White Light Radio, which has been going for a number of years. So there'll be many people that already know him. And yeah, I've known of Alan for a number of years. We connected years ago. Via messaging each other, because he was starting a circle in Dublin, I believe, and I was very interested in that at the time, although I was in Galway and wasn't really traveling very much at the time, so I stayed within my local area of Galway, so that I never went to his circle. But yeah, welcome, Alan.
Cheers, Carol. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I did join a circle in Dublin, but my own circle was started in County Meath, where I live at the moment. But I was in a circle in Dublin, but they were very, very hard to find, because, as you know, in the UK is full of spiritual churches and there's loads of circles. And it's great that you can have a pick as to which one you want to join. But over here in Ireland, there seems to be very few circles for people who want to develop and meet like-minded people. And I think we need more of that over here in Ireland. We definitely need to have more circles and more people running them, you know?
We definitely do. And that's been so needed in Ireland for so long. England is and Scotland are very blessed and I've been very blessed in being able to train with some very good mediums in the UK and in Scotland through the spiritualist churches, which normally just take a very small donation of £5. And Michael will be aware of this as well, because he does attend the spiritualist churches. But they are a great way, an absolutely great foundation for people to learn and develop mediumship, which I did for so long when I was there. Wherever I was, I would always be part of a spiritualist church. And yeah, we don't have them in Ireland, not like the UK, which is such a shame, but that is down to religion.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, for people who are probably not familiar, in the UK, there's the majority of the churches are probably SNU, which is the Spiritualist National Union. But I have to say, the services that they run are very similar to the religious service in some ways, not in every way, but in some ways. If you, however, live near London and you live near Slough, I do recommend people go to Slough Spiritualist Church, because they're not affiliated with the SNU, and they, at the time I was over there, had a brilliant service. You know, instead of having kind of very boring hymns and stuff like that where people weren't familiar with, you'd actually go in and they'd say, right, we need to raise the energy in the room. So they might put on a bit of Bob Marley or The Police or Bon Jovi or something, whatever it took to get the energy raised. And it was brilliant because everybody was really in a great mood with the energy of music that they could relate to. So that's the only thing I found with the difference between the SNU and churches that went their own way and didn't affiliate with the SNU. Now, it might be different now because that was a good few years ago, but just something for people to be aware of, you know, if they're thinking of joining. But I would recommend find out where your local spiritualist church is anyway, for starters, if you feel drawn to the spiritual side, and then take it from there and contact the local church, and maybe they already have a resident medium and a circle leader, and they will probably talk to you privately and find out, you know, why you want to join the circle, as happened me. And then if they accept you in the circle, then obviously go from there.
Yeah, and that they are a great way to develop. I think I would have been really lost without them when I was because so I joined the local spiritualist churches when I was in my early 20s. I think I was about 23, maybe 23. And then then I left the UK in 2009, and I moved back in when was it, 2017, I think, and then moved back to Ireland in 2019, 2020. So all the time, all those years, I was always in a weekly group. Sometimes I would even go 2 or 3 times a week. I was so it was a great way to develop. And then I got into Buddhism, and then I got into shamanism. But we were talking just now about, and I needed to add that the SNU has kind of I'd say, I think it's the last 10 years in the UK, perhaps I'm wrong, but it's got there's a lot of rules, it's got very regulated, and there's much more of that now, which I kind of pulled away from. And I remember signing a form, which I didn't agree with at the time. I thought to myself, I don't agree with this, but I signed it anyway. Because I had a choice of sign it and be part of that group, or not sign it and not be part of that group. So God bless me, I kind of lied as I was signing the form, because on the form it says that you kind of lied to myself, really, and them, because on the form it says that you are you become a spiritualist, and I'm not sure, I can't think of the word for it, but you adhere or admit that you are not part of any other religion or association. And at the time I was thinking Buddhism and also shamanism, which is a recognized religion. And then I was thinking, but I'm not, I'm more than just into spiritualism. But I signed it anyway. So it kind of went against my principles, but I had this decision to make, and I chose to sign it. I guess to people please as well,
Yeah, see, I think you're right there, Carol. I think there's too much red tape. Speaking to a lady who used to be in my circle, who did go down the SNU route, she was doing these workshops, which you had to sign up to and pay for. in the SNU, and you had to do X many hours for this, and X do this, and X do this, and at the end of it, you become a medium. And you know, at the end of the day, we all know it doesn't work like that. There's no certificates in the spirit world. Okay, it's all about your practice and your dedication, and your spiritual muscle is a muscle. And if you don't exercise that, then it's that simple. And I always say to people, look, there's professional footballers in the world. Some people are Diego Maradona, and some people are maybe a third-rate footballer who's a professional, but he'll never be a Diego Maradona, right? So there are good mediums, and are very, very good mediums. There's also bad mediums. And this is why one of the things that I was taught over in the my development circle is the process of CERT. And I think everybody, spiritual and otherwise, should be aware of this, because this will stop you being basically, conned. Because there are charlatans out there. There's always people going to take advantage of vulnerable people. I think we all know that. And you don't have to be a medium. You could be a plumber or a carpenter or a mechanic, and they'll take advantage. But CERT was a great way to for people to understand the process of mediumship. And CERT stands for Certify, Evidence, Reason, Terminate. And certify is to certify the spirit that's coming through. By the way, now, stop me if I'm wrong, but this is what I've been taught. You know, the difference between, people say I'm a psychic medium, and other people say I'm a spiritual medium, but there is a difference. A psychic medium is clairvoyant. It's feeling and knowing. They will not connect to spirit. They won't have spirit standing there saying, I have your grandmother here. Psychics work with energy and the clairvoyance, where a spiritual medium can work spiritually and they can work psychically. And the spiritual medium can have a relative come in and communicate with a relative. But the thing is, if you're getting a reading and somebody says, oh, I have a granny here with grey hair, well, that's very vague. This is why you certify. So you certify, I have your grandfather here. Evidence. Well, prove. What's the evidence that's my grandfather? Well, he's got a wooden leg. He's got 6 medals on his chest, and he's smoking a pipe. Yeah, that's my grandfather. That I can take that. Reason why he's here. Well, he's come through to send you love and to just tell you to get your brakes checked or whatever, just to be on the safe side. And the terminate is obviously to terminate the link and then say send love. I'm probably, teaching Granny to suck eggs with this, but I'm just going through what I was taught and the process, I went through when I was in circle. And I think for people who are not spiritual and who want a reading, I think they should try and apply CERT, because, vagueness, I mean, Paul McKenna proved it, that he's not a medium, but he actually, not Paul McKenna, who's the other guy, Darren Brown.
Yes.
Darren Brown actually did readings for people, and they really believed he was a medium. And he said, I'm not a medium. He said, I'm just doing cold reading. So when they start telling you things that they wouldn't possibly know, I mean, really things they wouldn't possibly know, then that's when you kind of have a good idea that the information's coming through. But look, this is why it's always good to go on word of mouth and recommendations. And that's why it's probably the best way for people to do it, rather than going in cold calling and just ringing up a medium who they don't know and there's no recommendation for. But yeah, sorry, I'm gabbling on there.
No, that's okay, Alan. So
Could I just point out, you haven't mentioned the greater world, the Christian Spiritualist Church, of which I am a member. It's not all SNU. I'm told that the SNU have now adopted the practice of saying who they've got, and then half a dozen people say, oh, I can take that. And then they whittle it down until they've got the right person. Well, the way I've been taught, and the way a lot of mediums do it, of course, is to say, I want to come to the lady there in the red dress and the glasses. And then they say, give them evidential information, and also they're not allowed to mention dead pets, and that fits in with what Alan James has said about rules and regulations. But in the Christian Spiritualist Church, if a medium wants to go the way of saying who they've got and can anybody recognise it, well, okay, but the way that a lot of people, including myself, work is to, as I said, to come to a person, and we think that's a better way of doing it. And if a black and white cat appears, well, then why not say so? You know, I've heard some SNU mediums say that they've been told. Margaret interrupted me. Say that they said things in an SNU church which contravene some rules of the SNU, and when they're taken to task, they say, "Well, that's what Spirit gave me. What do you want? Do you want me not to give it to them?" And of course, there's no answer to that. So I would draw the attention of this group. Now there's a cat interrupting us. To the greater world Christian spiritualists, it's not a traditional Christian church, I must admit, but at least it follows. Sorry about the cat. At least it follows better principles in my way of thinking. So I just ask you to remember them as well. There are independent spiritualist churches, and some of them are quite good.
Yeah.
Some of them are quite bad, I must say. As Alan has said, it's much of a muchness, because if they're not affiliated to an organisation, they tend to be run by one person, and it becomes that one person's church. So you have to be very careful with spiritualist churches. I won't talk about what I've heard about some of them, but well, I couldn't really. It's not fit for repeating. But so you do need to choose a spiritualist church very carefully.
Yeah, I agree, Michael. Number one, I totally agree. You should, if you're getting information through an animal or pet, or confirmation that, you know, a pet has died maybe, and the medium will say, you know, well, I have a dog and it's kind of a golden retriever. Can you take that? And they go, yeah, my granny used to have a golden retriever.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with that. I think what you have to be very careful with, for newbies, when they do readings, they tend to, it's kind of like catchphrase, they say what you see. But if you, I don't know whether you've read the book by Mia Dolan. Mia Dolan lives on the Isle of Sheppey. She wrote a book called The Gift. A brilliant book. I learned a lot through that book, because she learned the hard way. It's a brilliant book. I couldn't put it down, Michael. I had to keep reading it.
Yes.
She said that when she was beginning as a medium, she was doing readings, and she said to one woman that, "Oh, by the way, your husband is having an affair." And the next day, her husband comes in, kicking the door down, wanting to kill her, saying, you know, "How dare you tell him I'm having an affair?" Now, I don't know whether he was or not, but this is why, especially when you get a diagnosis or somebody might have cancer or something like that, you don't just come out and go, "Oh, by the way, Spirit's saying that you have cancer."
No,
you know,
of course not. No.
But for newbies and for new people who are new to the spiritual readings and they're getting information, it's important for them to be aware of that, because you're dealing with vulnerable people a lot of the time. So sometimes you're not just a medium, but you're there as a kind of a shoulder to cry on, or somebody to listen to, you know. And I think we have to be very careful with that, and be careful what you say. But like anything, when you're developing with in a circle and you're working with spirit, it's like I've always said to my students that, You know, you start off with A is for apple, B is for banana, and you build up. There's no point saying, right, I want to be a medium. Here's War and Peace, and you know, here's the book to read. And you think, no, this is too much. You have to start off A is for apple, B is for banana. Work out what the communication is when your spirit is showing you something.
Yes.
And then you know that when they show you the next time, oh, that's a ship, that means travel or whatever. It could be different for other mediums. So it's, you have to build up your own form of communication with spirit.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alan. And we were also talking about targeting earlier, which always seems to be such a big issue for me. And to be honest, I'm just so sick of it. But I've part of me has come to accept that it comes with the job and the territory and my mission of what I'm doing, which is part of my mission is very much to be a channel for the Pleiadians, but that is not all love and light. You know, it's hard going sometimes, most especially when I'm under attack, which when I began to consciously channel the Pleiadians in 2009, I think it was, maybe 2010, I was given a leeway of a couple of months without any, I think it was a couple of months, it might not even have been that looking back. But it felt like a few months. And I was very, very, when I consciously started to channel them, I was very, that's all I was doing. I didn't have anything else going on, except I was growing vegetables, and I was living in Lewisburg in County Mayo, and I was on the beach, and I had just left my first husband, and which is a whole other story, as Dennis knows, but that's not public. And I left my husband, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do, and I decided I wanted a house on the beach. That's all I wanted. That's all I focused on, and I got it. I saw an advert in the newspaper, house on the beach. So I applied and I got it, and then I really had time to breathe, go to the beach, because it was a minute walk. And I really, I had already previously in London started to channel right, maybe a couple of months, a year before that, but I didn't know who it was. I just knew that I was very depressed, and it made me feel really happy. So I knew that it was not me, because I was very low. I wasn't in a good space at the time. But anyway, to kind of cut a long story short, I was given a space of about 2 or 3 months with the channeling, where I was very, like, I would see them physically in the same way that I would see spirit, because I'd been doing all that training with the spiritualist churches for so long. And of course, I grew up with spirit very much when my granddad died and came back to me. So I grew up with spirit, and I grew up with my spirit guides, who kept me very safe and sane and were always with me, even though I had a very traumatic, horrendous childhood. I was always very well protected, even though it doesn't appear so. Things could have been 100 times worse for me, and they weren't. So I was given the leeway of a few months without any negative targeting or attacks. And then the first attack I had was probably one of the most serious that I've ever had, where I was raped on the astral plane by a guy who let me know that he worked for the CIA in America, and suggested through a chat in Facebook Messenger that jokingly that we should have sex on the astral, and not realizing that that I was consenting, I was typing what I was thinking, and which is what I usually do, or speak what I'm thinking, which is also what I usually do. Unbeknownst to me, that I was consenting by typing what I was thinking, because I was thinking, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And that's what I wrote even before I was, you know, even before I'd said to myself, Carol, don't type that. So of course I'd consented, and then that evening he came and raped me on the astral plane, and I knew it was real because in the morning I was internally I was very sore. So it's not all love and light. There can be a very dark negative side to channeling and to mediumship, in the sense that we're targets, and there is voice to skull technology, and which I've also experienced quite a number of times, which is very linked, I believe, very linked to the CIA, and I've experienced that. I've had quite a few, I don't even want to call them spiritual experiences, but I've had quite a few etheric, perhaps, experiences with the CIA, where I've been aware of them, and almost like remote viewing, but with both parties being aware of the other. So I was aware of them and they were very aware of me. So I would call that more remote viewing rather than a spiritual experience, because there was nothing spiritual about it. It wasn't a positive at all. So I've had some of those experiences where I've been aware that that I'm not in the room by myself, and I'm also, you know, more visual than that as well. And then of course there's the voice to skull technology, which I've had, and lately that I've really begun to realize, more so than ever, that a lot of the targeting that have been getting lately is very much comes through technology, my laptop and my phone, and it's very targeted, and it's frequencies. So I don't know, Alan, and also this is for the group as well. Do you want to? Is there anything you'd like to speak to that, Alan? And because I know that.
Well, just two things I'd say. I was attacked twice on the astral, and one of them was satanic. So I've been there, so I know what it's like. But on the TI stuff, I learned about TIs back in my old radio show, Open Your Mind Radio.
Sorry, Alan, for the audience, what is TI?
TI is targeted individual. And it's when an individual is targeted for different reasons. Sometimes it's experimental, and sometimes it's because they could be exposing too much information, or they could be on a spiritual path and exposing too much information on that side. So they will be targeted, and they mess with your head as well. For some people, a TI could be, what would happen is that they might break into your house and move things around and then leave. And then you'll come into your house and you'll realize, you go, I didn't leave that there. What's that doing there? And they start messing with your head because you think you're going mad, you know, and your friends and family are going, don't be silly. No, nobody's breaking into your house. But this is the type of thing they do. Also, gang stalking. They can get people to kind of stalk you and to follow you and to call you names and all that kind of stuff. So they have various methods regarding TI. Now, back in, I don't know what year it was, probably 2016, 2015, something like that. I interviewed two guys who were targeted individuals, and they both trained myself and my co-host on how to scan people for microchips. And I have the technology here with me. It takes about 45 minutes to scan for microchips. And I have footage of kids and adults having microchips implanted in them and haven't had them removed as well. But technology has moved on in the last 10 years, and now they don't really need microchips. They have nanotech, and they put it in vaccines, as we all know. And then one of the things what happened with COVID is, for anybody who knows IT, all hardware equipment has a thing called a MAC address, right? It's a unique address that all hardware has. And there was an app that you could download for free, and you could scan MAC addresses in your local area. And there was people actually scanning people after they had COVID. They'd be in a room, and there might be one computer in the room, and there'd be like 10 MAC addresses, and there might be a doctor's waiting room or something. And they're going, hang on, there's only one computer in here, and I might have 2 or 3 MAC addresses because a network card or something, but there was 10 MAC addresses coming up. And this person was saying that this app checks, and the nanotech that's in the vaccine is picking up the MAC address for programming, because they can now use the 5G, this is the idea, 5G, 6G, to be able to program the nanotech that's in your body. So this is what the talk was about, and how they can now, they don't need to have microchips implants. They can actually use vaccines and maybe the flu jab or whatever jab they want to do, to get the nanotech inside you. So that's the TI stuff, and it's still going on now. It's still happening now. I haven't been a TI, but I have been targeted. I had my broadband cable cut at the side of my house because the week
Wow.
that I had that cable cut, I was interviewing a girl called Seven, who was a TI person, and she was targeted by, she feels, the BBC, because she came up with a few ideas of TV programs like Come Dine With Me and Come Dancing and stuff like that. And naively, she went in and did an interview with the
Can I just,
senior. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Alan, can I just ask, is that the black girl in London?
Yes, there's a black
Yeah.
girl in London
Yeah.
called Seven. And that interview is available on YouTube if people want to hear it. Yeah, and she was said that they tried to kill her. You know, you don't know, she doesn't know who, she has her suspicions, but the interview is available online if people want to hear it. So TIs are real, and they're all over the world, and we have TIs over here in Ireland as well as we have TIs in the UK. And also you have people who suffer from electric sensitivity.
Yeah.
And they can't live in the houses because of the EMF from electricity and everything else. And we have a few of them. I interviewed a few of them as well, and they move around all the time. Since the advent of the more technology, 3, 4, 5G, it's just affects them tremendously. That one lady I interviewed, she has to live in a wooden hut with no power. Literally with no power, and it's gone back to the Stone Age because she just can't be in a room where there's electricity, or she can't be in a house with electricity. And so she moves around from place to place, trying to find a better premises or a better place to stay that she's not affected by. So all these things are kind of going on with advanced technology, and we all know that they want to microchip us all. I mean, that's the mark of the beast. And the whole idea of COVID with your mobile phones, it starts off with mobile phones, and from some people who aren't aware about where they're going with this is their plan if they get away with it. Now that my background is IT, corporate IT, so they have AI. And they have the ability to fake your voice. Photoshop developed a program that they can record your somebody's voice, and they can actually type, you know, I'm looking for a mortgage account, and they can take your voice, copy your voice, and have your voice saying stuff like that on the phone. But we also have the AI as well. I've used AI in numerous ways to see what it's like using it, the technology. And everything can be fake now. It's in, you know, you could have President Obama, you know, turned around and saying that we should bomb, you know, the UK or something like that, you know. And they can do this deep fake technology. But the whole thing about this is that banks will turn around and governments will turn around eventually and go, we can't prove that it's you. So the only way we can do it is if we put a chip inside your hand. And that way, you know, when you come to identify yourself, we know it's you because you'll have the chip. Otherwise, you could be anybody. It could be deep fake, or it could be audio.
Sheila, turn your camera off because we're recording.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
That's okay, darling.
So this is the kind of technology they have, and this is where they want to go with this. And so the whole idea of the mark of the beast will be, you won't be able to buy your food, or you won't be able to go in and register or take money out unless you have something in your hand that they can prove it's you. That's the excuse they'll use. And of course, the mobile phone was the tester, because everybody had to have their vaccine identity, digital ID on their phone to prove that they had the jab. So they wanted to see how acquiescent people were in the world regarding COVID. And that was a tester. So,
Well,
so
there is something I would like to share with Alan. I'm not sure if I think all of you know it. Michael definitely knows it because he was on the phone to me a few years ago. Well, I was on the phone to him a few years ago. And I'm not sure if Dennis knows it, but he will in a minute. But a few years ago, I was living in Portsmouth in the UK, and I'd gone to do a talk in the UFO Academy in, I think it was Oxford.
What?
And that's Watford. Sorry, Watford. Yeah, sorry, it's Ben that lives in Oxford. And I have a few stories around that, but I've one in particular that is coming to mind that I wanted to share with you and Dennis. And I was going through targeting at the time, and I lived in Portsmouth, and I was in a social housing in quite a large complex where they had 3 large apartment blocks, and then they had one humongous communal garden. And I was talking about the garden the other day to Alan when I started to reconnect with the Pleiadians at the time of COVID. But anyway, I was going through a really bad scenario of targeting at the time, and sorry guys, I'm quite close to tears. I feel quite sad this evening. Because of all the targeting, it's really taken its toll on me emotionally, but also physically, because my energy does get targeted, where I've just got no energy. And I was very ill at Christmas, and I'm kind of just ranting on now, but I was very ill at Christmas, and I think that was due to the targeting. So I'm very much about finding solutions, which I'll go into, you know, after I share this story. I don't like using the word story, but situation, where I was heavily being followed and targeted, and I was being watched from my window. Overlooked, I was on the first floor, and my window overlooked a car park, and there was this in my kitchen, which was very small, so I didn't used to spend a lot of time in the kitchen unless I was actually cooking or making tea or something, because you could touch all the walls with both your hands. You know, it was very small, very compact, very nice, but very small. And I had the window there, and it was very narrow. It was kind of long and narrow, and the window was at one end of on the left end of the wall. And whenever I was in there, you couldn't help but look out the window because it was so small, you know. So I used to look out the window when I was in the kitchen quite a lot, and I would always see this particular car. It never moved, ever. 24/7 was always there. It didn't move at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. It was constantly there for months and months and months, maybe even a whole year. And one day I never saw anyone in it, except for one day I saw a guy I think it was to the right of the car, and the car was facing me. And he looked up at the window, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and that lasted a couple of minutes, which was, you know, very obvious to me. But then there was other things going on as well, and I used to get followed, and it always seems to be by people on bikes, motorbikes, and I was very aware of that at the time. And then I was on the phone one day to Michael around this time, and to Michael that's here with us now, and Michael's a very good healer, and I met him at the UFO conference talk that I did in Watford. And so I was talking to Michael about being watched and followed. And then the next day, would you believe it or not, because I was in so opposite my apartment building, there was an Asda, and in front of the Asda, in between me and the Asda, there was a huge wall. So the sound used to bounce off and come back towards my building. And one day there was and it was very much like that. It was a very built up area, but you could hear everything outside when you had the windows open. So the next day after, because I was telling Michael about this, and I was telling him about the guy in the car park and the car and being watched and followed and all of it, and everything else that was going on as well. I can't remember half of it now. And then the next day there was two guys that walked outside beneath my window, and they were talking, and I could hear them very clearly. And they said, yeah, but she got the wrong car. Yeah, but she got the wrong car. And that's what I heard them say. And I was just, my first thought was, gotcha. Because there's no way on this earth that was not directly connected. Yeah, but she got the wrong car. So that's just something I wanted to share with you guys. And I wanted to ask Alan, is there anything, because I know that I'm 1 in a million of other people that also get targeted. So I wanted to ask Alan, like I'm just really quite low at the moment, and sad and fed up and annoyed, and therefore I'm going to be looking for more solutions and more powerful ways to protect myself, because I this is my mission, this is my purpose, and it doesn't really matter what happens to me, even if they do end up taking me out. I'm going to die doing what I'm meant to be doing, which is this, and the channel, very much part of the channeling. So, and excuse my French, but I really don't give a fuck what they do to me, because there'll be 30 people, 100 people to take my place. And it's very much to do with ascension and the huge shift in humanity's consciousness. So for that reason, I know that there'll be 100-fold people to take my place. So it doesn't really matter if they take me out or not. But I think we need to be looking for new solutions and new remedies, because they are they've really upped, the negative agenda has really upped their game since COVID. So there is more attacks, there's more targeting, there's more technology. They're way in advance with their technology. And I've also been succumbed in the past, unknowingly at the time, to I've been channeling the Pleiadians for a number of years, and then an energy stepped in that I thought was Pleiadian and wasn't. And since then, I've very much learned to be more cautious, to really establish before it, every single time before I channel, that it is the Pleiadians, and I have certain ways and secret ways that they show themselves to me, that I won't release publicly, because then it'll, quite obviously it could be infiltrated. But they give me secret signs, or they give me signs that I haven't made public, except for a few close people that I know I can trust. So is there anything that you'd recommend for people to help, especially channelers, I guess, people that are, and starseeds, and people that are sitting ducks or sitting targets? So
there's a couple of things that I could recommend. When we first start looking at TIs and speaking, when I started speaking to TIs, there wasn't really any solutions around at the time. I thought, there's not, what can you do? They're targeting you and there's nothing you can do. But actually, in hindsight, now that a few years on, there's a couple of things I'd suggest, and it's a case of try them, see how you get on, and check them out. So there's a number of ways they'll try and attack you through a TI process. It's either going to be physical or spiritual, isn't it? It's going to be, and it could be both. So from the physical point of view, they can do what I said earlier. Sometimes they'll break into somebody's house, move things around, and then leave. And then you just think you're going mad because you just, your friends and family just think you're losing the plot. Don't be silly. They'd never do that. Yes, they do. That's part of the whole idea, to drive you nuts. The second thing to do is, as I say, gang stalking. You just have to be careful of that, because then they use people to actually attack you, and, verbally and maybe physically. Hopefully that hasn't happened. So just once awareness is half the battle. Right? If you know the magic trick and how they do it, then it takes their power away, because you know what they're doing and how they're doing it. That's half the battle, knowing the difference between covert and overt surveillance. If somebody is outside your house 24/7 and you don't know they're there, they can stay there 24/7. But as soon as you know they're there and they know you know they are there, the game is up for them. So half the battle is knowing the magic trick and knowing what they're doing and how they're doing it. From a physical point of view, they obviously will use technology. So what I suggest to you, Carol, is if there's a possibility of you being able to switch off your power completely in your house before you go to bed at night. I mean, I don't know whether you can, and obviously have some night light or something if you want. If you like lights, put a battery powered light, maybe in your hallway, something like that, if you like a bit of light. Okay, but if you have no EMF and no mobile phone on and all that kind of stuff is off, and there's no power, well, if there's no power, they can't use that technology, right? You can't. Now, I know for a fact that people think, oh, my computer switches off. They have the ability to switch a computer on remotely, right? Through the chip, through your phone and through the chips. They can do that, right? So if there's no power, at all, well, that kind of lessens the possibility of them being able to do anything like that. Okay. Now, you might want to try it for, say, a few days and see, is there a noticeable difference between having the power off and having the power on? Okay, so that's one way of doing it on the physical side. Obviously, being aware of your surroundings and when you go out shopping and all that, just being aware and know that, once you know that they do these things, then you'll be aware, you'll be tuned into that and be aware of that. From a spiritual point of view, what I suggest you do, because the one thing that somebody said to me in the Slough Church, is that the more you develop as a medium, the more the negatives will attack you. And she said to me that when she didn't want to say anything to me, and then she realized how much I knew about what was going on, and then she opened up to me, she said, I see these entities standing at bus stops and standing at traffic lights, and I mean, when your energy or your vibration, your frequency is very low, drink drugs and all that kind of stuff, they will jump in. Okay, and there is a reason, apparently, I was told, why the smoking ban came in, because they actually don't like smoke. And with the smoking ban gone, it means they can actually go into pubs now and walk around and people drinking and all that kind of stuff, where you couldn't do that because of the smoke. For some reason, it was affecting them. Okay. So I would suggest, there's a lady that I'm going to be interviewing in a few weeks' time, and she's going to be doing the reading for me. I've known her for years. Her name is Tracy Mahan, and Tracy's been on my show a number of times, and she channels and she has an entity she brings through called Daniel from the Pleiades. He's Pleiadian. And
Wow.
I've interviewed her on my show, and if you go to any of the shows I've done with Tracy, she does channeling, and you can hear Daniel coming through her channel. Now, I always get my energy checked with Tracy every now and again, and I'm due an update. Because most of us suffer from the ringing in the ears. One could be an upgrade and one could be a download, right? And I remember when Tracy tuned in to me and she said, right, Alan, she said, you're going to get a ringing in your ear now. And as soon as she said now, the ringing in my ear, my right ear started happening. And then she said, it's going to, she said, is it too loud? And I said, no. And she goes, right, it's going to stop now. And as soon as she said now, it stopped. Right. So she obviously knew that was going to happen because there was downloads coming in. So I said, Tracy, I need you to do an energy check on my spherical bodies, you know, the 7 or 8 bodies that we have, as Dennis said, we were talking about the other night. And she said, so she checked my energy, and she said there was an entity going around trying to find a weakness in my my protection. And I said to her, can you remove that entity and get rid of them? And she said, yeah, I will. So off and took that energy away, right? So sometimes, although you're a channel, you know, there's so much that we can do to help ourselves, but sometimes we need a helping hand. And I think it would be good for you, and I can introduce you to Tracy, and you can do a quid pro quo, and maybe you do her and she do you, right? And help each other out that way. And that might be a good idea. And I think Tracy would be, she's been doing it a long time, and she knows, you know, she knows the game, you know. And I think she would be good for Tracy, get Tracy to do a scan on you to make sure that there's nothing trying to get in or hanging around or trying to attack you or trying to pull your energy down. You know, I mean, we all know about it's 8 feet, you know,
Auric field.
Auric field is 8 feet. And of course, we go into a pub and we're rubbing off people all the time with auric field. And what we should be doing is, before we go into the pub, we need to pull it in, like the Ready Break advert on years ago, you know. And sometimes I forget to do that, and I go down to Navan Shopping Centre and I come out like a bull in a china shop, and I'm thinking, why the hell am I pissed off? Well, I'm picking everybody else's bloody energy up and then bringing it with me. So I need to pull in my auric field. So I think that would be a good thing for you to do. And I can, as I say, do the intro, and there'd be no harm for Tracy to do that. And she can channel, if you want, she could channel, but she can do a reading for you and check your energy field. And I remember one reading she did for me, there was a little girl hanging around behind me in the chair, spirit. And I said, well, who's the spirit behind me? Who is it? And she said, no, the little girl won't tell me who it is. And I said, okay, look, if she's not going to say who she is, then move her on to spirit, move her on to source, you know, because I've done in my circle, and the circle I was in Dublin, we did a lot of spiritual rescue, and we had loads of, you know, different spirits coming in, asking for help and all that. So, yeah, I think that would be the way forward for, so from a physical point of view, your awareness that of being a TI, and obviously what they do, and obviously with the power, maybe try that for a week and see if there's a noticeable difference. Okay, with no power, no, that means they can't use computers or phones and all that kind of stuff. Switch off your phone, obviously, and do your TV, everything, all power's gone.
Yeah.
And then I can get you in touch with Tracy. As to whether you have nanotech in your body, you didn't get the jab, okay? But that doesn't mean you don't have nanotech, because they're even trying to put it in the food these days as well, because, you know, they didn't get us through the jab, so they're trying to get us through the food.
Yeah, but it's all the nanotechnology, in my understanding, is also in the chemtrails and the things that they're spraying from the skies.
Yeah. They're spraying barium, strontium, aluminium, and Christ knows what else in the chemtrails. I interviewed Michael Murphy, who was involved with the documentary "What in the Earth Are They Spraying?" or "What in the Sky Are They Spraying?" Something like that is the name of the documentary. It's on YouTube, and they actually went up in a plane and flew through a chemtrail and took a sample of what was there, and then came down and analyzed it. You know.
Wow.
So, and of course, they've been doing cloud seeding since the 60s, probably earlier than that, you know. And I know that Harry Rhodes and his team use translators based on Wilhelm Reich technology to try and change what the HARP effect and what the cloud seeding has been happening. I mean, I have a translator just here, which Harry gave me. It's a 20-inch translator, which I've used to actually modify the weather and change the weather. you know, when you study the science and understand the science as Harry does, you know, he built the translators to change the weather. But yeah, so that's my suggestion for being a TI. Is they're the things that I would suggest.
Thanks, Alan. And there's also a woman on that does YouTube or Facebook videos where she records the chemtrails, and then she has discovered that she uses this bowl of ingredients, and it's a very small bowl, and it's surprising that it makes some difference where it helps to clear some of the chemtrails, and you can see it on the videos where it's clear above the bowl, which is surprising. I find it very surprising that this tiny small bowl of ingredients, I think it's vinegar and some other things. I don't know if you've seen the video.
No, but I was going to say vinegar is involved in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is surprising. I was even thinking of trying it myself. But it's surprising how such a small bowl, like a cereal bowl of ingredients, would have such an effect. But you can actually see the effect it's having on the sky above. So I think I might try that. And I have, the last couple of weeks, maybe months, I have started to turn my mobile phone off when I've been sleeping, and that has made a difference. But and because I'm renting here and I'm sharing a house, I think secretly I might start turning off the Wi-Fi at night, and not even asking permission, because I'm sure he would say no. But just turning it off, you know, and seeing what happens with him in the morning, if he's annoyed with me or anything. But I think I might try that, because it's mostly at night that I definitely do get targeted. So I'm just delighted that you've joined us, and I'm hoping that it will be on a weekly basis. I know that they have so much to say to you, which is one of the reasons I've invited you into these groups, because I feel personally that it would take me months to say everything that they have to say to you, individually, personally, you know. So and I just think you're amazing. I just think the work you're doing is amazing, and I think that you're actually, I feel that you're quite an exceptional soul, and I also feel that that the things you have yet to discover about yourself that will surprise you in a very positive way, to do with past lives and to do with who you are on a soul level. And I also feel that you have a very, very strong connection to the Pleiadians. And for some reason, we keep losing Sheila. And one of the things I've noticed with the attacks, just to mention very quickly before I start channeling, is that I get very hot, like I'm burning up sometimes. And that's been very much the last couple of days as well.
Could they be using, you know, there are technology. One guy that, see, there's so much that I could tell you with the years of interviews and people I've interviewed. I come across all kinds of stuff. And one chap that sent me a device, he worked for NASA, and he was a friend of Harry Rhodes, and I had a 3-hour Zoom call with him and Harry, and he designed a device that he said you don't need to have a spooky machine with 60,000 rife frequencies. You only need one frequency, because he worked out, being working for NASA, he said that there's one frequency that goes through all the others. There's one, whatever it was, that went through all the others. He said, if you run this device with this one frequency, and he said people were experiencing, because if you run it, you're taking yourself out of the matrix. And he said some people had positive experience, and other people had entities appearing in their bedroom, and it scared the shit out of them. But the point being that he was gardening one day, and they actually aimed the device at him in his garden. That gave him a heart attack, and only because he realized that he ran from his front garden to his back garden to get away from this device. Now, they possibly could have the technology to obviously be, heating you up. I mean, obviously, I don't know your age, but I know of women of a certain age have menopausal issues, but they would have different
I'm 97.
Yeah. See, so the trick is, right? Always trying to look younger, right? But the best thing when people say, "How old are you?" I'll go, "I'm 86." God, you look great for 86. So you have lie about your age, but they may have technology. As again, just be aware, keep an open mind, and you can say, well, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but entertain the possibility that might be another kind of attack using some advanced technology and why you heat up. But remember also that Wi-Fi, your microwave cooks food, and the whole idea that it heats the water molecules in the food, and it works on 2.4 gigahertz, and your router works on 2.4 gigahertz. So you're being cooked by a router with non-ionizing radiation 24/7 if you have it switched on.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why all my equipment here, my PC, my computer, everything's hardwired here,
Yeah.
Now I do have Wi-Fi on because my son needs the Wi-Fi, but I've set the power so low you have to be practically sitting on top of it to use it. So there's ways and means of getting around these things, but there you go.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, so I'm gonna ask Dennis to lead with perhaps even more than usual, with more protection. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. So I'm gonna ask Dennis to start. For those of you, actually, I'm not gonna say that. So
Okay.
oh, hold on,
Well,
hold on. So Dennis, will you begin, please, by doing some very strong, powerful, protective prayer, not just for me, but for everyone in the group and for those listening at a future date that are targeted, and have the voice to skull technology. Yeah, I'm trying not to say too much. So yeah, if you could please start by doing some protection and the I am prayer, and also the other one as well.
very good. Okay. So I will invite people to center themselves, contact with their...
And if you could all please put yourselves on mute.
Very good. Invite people to contact with their inner self. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, not humans having a spiritual experience. And so we are, in essence, we are spirit, we are immortal, we are fractals of source. We, in essence, are connected to all love, power, and knowledge. So to center, just take some deep breaths. Breathe in through your nose. Hold the breath a moment. And breathe out deeply. Do that cycle 3 times. Breathe in. Hold the breath. And breathe out. Breathe in. Hold the breath. And breathe out. And in this moment of now, and in this stillness, you might put your hand up to the middle of your chest. And in this moment, you may feel that you sink into a peace. There is a stillness that invites you. And here you are, being with your true I Am presence that sits in the bosom of Mother God. And know that from here you are untouched. And from here you can offer protection to your bodies, to the physical body, to the mental body, to the emotional body, to the etheric body, your auric field and chakra systems. From here, you can share an intention which is powerful to protect, heal, and balance the turbulence that these bodies can feel, the attacks that these bodies can be subjected to. Know that in your I Am presence, in your divine Christ self, as fractal of God, that you are a creator of your realm, a director and owner of your reality and universe. And with this partnership of spirit, you have great power. You are at cause to bring ease, healing, balance, and protection to yourself and all that surrounds you. Thank you. And now I'll say the prayer of oneness. I'll say it 3 times. We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask for the greatest good of all here concerned. I give thanks that this is done, it is so. We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask for the greatest good of all here concerned. I give thanks that this is done, it is so. We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask for the greatest good of all here concerned. I give thanks that this is done, it is so. And to share the affirmation of I am that is taught by Blossom Goodchild, and she shared her by what she describes as Galactic Federation. It is, I am the light, I am the love, I am the truth, I am. I am the light, I am the love, I am the truth, I am. I am the light, I am the love, I am the truth, I am the truth, I am. All right.
Thank you, darling. Sheila, your camera's on.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of trouble with my computer. That's why I keep coming and going. I'm trying to, I keep getting all these messages about viruses and things. Okay, so I'm trying to get rid of it. Thank you.
Okay. Let us start with a meditation. So visualize we would like to firstly say that we are delighted you are all here this evening. Let us begin with a meditation, which we haven't done for a while. Visualize or see blue lights like orbs around you. Hovering, swaying, circling, dancing in your auric field, becoming stronger, clearer, where you're more able to feel these energies that are us and represent us, dancing around you, drawing closer to your frequency, your vibration. Your soul's, your frequency, your vibration Did you know that they emanate a sound? We've not spoken of this before. We've not discussed this before, even with Soma. But you individually emanate, give off a sound that is as unique as your fingerprints, which we have spoken of before. You each have a sound. A frequency. There is so much that we have to share with you. And we just wanted to use that to give you a visual just one visual of us and how you can connect to us by visualizing a blue orb is a good way to describe it, or a blue light, a blue energy. Archangel Michael is often described as having a blue light. But we are also emanating a blue light, which is why we are giving you that example of visualizing a blue light. Soma or Carol often sees us with a blue around us, which we do have. We do emanate a color. As most star nations or light beings or angels do, we give off blue mostly. Humans often have very different colors or different an array of different colors in their auric field, which changes many times throughout their lifetime. And these colors represent different things. Everything is frequency, color, sound, music, food, animals, plants, nature. Everything is made up of frequency and all contain color and sound on a more subtle level or levels. A new dawn is beginning, has already begun on your planet that you call Earth. Some of you call Earth. There are many representations of what is really going on in your so-called movies and programs, most especially some of the sci-fi movies and stories. And some are very popular amongst you. You might find it surprising that the most popular ones Soma has never really watched. She may have seen she may have seen glimpses or moments of them. But there is so much that is hidden from you and yet shown to you through these movies and programs. We wanted to start off this evening with a lighter approach, covering some of the lighter subjects, kind of a tiptoe or a dance of gentleness and easiness, breezy energy, light-hearted, more than we normally have for this evening, given the energy that this one has been in. We feel her emotions, this is something that you must learn. You must learn to, we are speaking to humanity as a collective. You must learn to protect yourselves against these attacks and targeting and technologies that are being used against you, both individually and collectively. You are here because you are needed. You are here en masse to assist the ascension process. We do not need to go into that in detail now. You are already aware of it. The vast majority of you, or a certain amount of the majority of you, are aware. What we mean to say is that there is enough of you that are aware of this. So join us in a meditation that will allow us to take Soma a little bit deeper. So visualize blue lights that we were describing just now around you. You can also visualize a beam of white light coming down, and this can be just above your head, or it can be hundreds of feet, thousands of feet above your head. Whichever you choose, it does not really matter. But it is a white beam of light coming down and fully surrounding you in our frequency of love. And visualize in front of you a great big tree. It can be any tree you wish. It can even be an etheric tree or an imaginary tree that does not even perhaps physically exist or physically exist. It can be a tree of color, of light, of a higher dimension. It doesn't have to be limited to Earth. It can be a tree that would look like or looks like it should be on a planet of a higher frequency. It could just purely be color. And put your arms around this tree and bow your head so that your forehead is touching the tree and your feet are touching the exposed roots beneath your feet. Thick, long, solid roots that are exposed above the ground, above the earth. And you can feel your feet. And you can feel in the middle of the soles of your feet, in a circular shape, you can feel a heat where your chakras are opening. And visualize roots coming from your feet, going into the roots of the tree and deep down into the core of the earth. You can also visualize a rope, not too tightly and not too loosely, around your waist. Knotted, but comfortably knotted, not too tight and not too loose. And at the end of this rope, there is an anchor. And it can be made of crystal, huge quartz crystal anchor, or it can have a huge quartz crystal attached to it. But it is a huge anchor, and you can drop it to the core of the earth. You can dive down to the core of the earth with this anchor and crystal. And then you can visualize coming back up in a spiral if you so wish. And then you come up and stand on the earth, on the tree roots again, helping to ground and connect you to the earth. You are in such a great time that we still cannot find the words, or Soma cannot find the words to describe how magnificent the time you are in truly is. Truly, truly is on your planet right now in the time of ascension. This ascension is not limited to Earth. It has far-reaching effects in every direction, everywhere, in every dimension. from the smallest particle to the biggest planets. Everything is affected. Like a beautiful, huge clockwork that we showed Soma and shared with most of you who are here previously. A beautiful image of the universe with a beautiful clockworks superimposed over an image of the universe. Everything is connected. And the negative agenda, the dark forces at play on your planet, and those that are ruling them, that are not on your planet, and those that they work with that are not on your planet, also have their place. You can they have their part to play in ascension. It is partly due to their role and existence on your planet that you get to ascend. Let us say that again. It is because of the negative agenda and their role and status and position on your planet that you get to ascend. Without them, you would stay more or less where you are, and there would be nothing to achieve. You would not be in a space of evolution. So the targeting is a teaching for you to evolve and move beyond, to gain experience and understanding and lessons, to rise above it. We know this is not difficult. So we know that they are using technology. We know that they are using technology that you are not yet aware of, you do not know about. And this includes Soma. She's never an exception to anything we say. Now would be a good time for questions. We are working very gently, and gently is a good word. This evening with Soma, because this is what her energetic body needs this evening. So this is the way we are choosing to work with her this evening, in a more subtle or gentle way. We will pause to give you opportunity to ask questions.
Michael, your microphone is muted.
Right. I just wanted to ask about recent weather events, such as the heavy snowfall in Europe and floods again in Europe and in the Far East. Are these? What is the reason for the change in the weather that we are experiencing at the moment, which is causing us concern for the winter?
There are many technologies that are being used against you. Some of them are well known. Some of them are well known. But you have heard of HARP technology. There are technologies that you have not heard of. There are technologies running beneath your ocean floors. There are technologies running beneath your ocean floors that were installed when cables were installed, that cause earthquakes. There are many different technologies that are being used against you, not just to create negative weather, not just to create snow, not just to create rain, not just to create storms, not just to create earthquakes. Forgive Soma. She did not mean to say your. She meant to say, we meant to say, the technology that you are aware of is the tip of the iceberg. There are technologies that are hundreds of years, even more than hundreds of years, thousands of years in advance of what you are being shown. And that is not even in the mainstream. We are speaking of the alternative views. We include you, the likes of you, and the starseeds, and the truthers, as you sometimes call them. Technology that is in the hands of the negative agenda is way in advance of what you are aware of. And yet the ones amongst you, the starseeds, the lightworkers, the warriors, the mystics, the healers, the shamans are aware of these technologies, such as HARP, and we include bioengineering in this because that is a negative technology, or technology that is used in a negative, in a negative way. We include that as a technology. But there are many technologies being used against you to create war, to create famine, to create disaster, to create disease. These are technologies, these are weapons, nanotechnologies, various different technologies. Some you are aware of and many you are not. Technology is neither positive nor negative, depending on which side has it and in which, and their intention, thank you, their intention for the use of these technologies. Your weather will get worse. There is no doubt. Your Earth is shifting back onto her natural axis. So some of these natural disasters will in fact be natural. Some of them. And some of them, probably more than not, are being created by your negative military and governments, and even secret companies that operate, or companies that operate in secret and underground. And we do quite literally mean underground, beneath your oceans, beneath your mountains, inside your mountains. But Area 51 is a prime example of an area that was secret. Although Area 51 has a slightly different purpose, reason for being. Mostly experiments. But going back to your question about the weather. People call it different things. Soma calls it chemtrails. Mark calls it bioengineering. There is a new term that people have started to hear on your news recently, where the media is now openly admitting cloud seeding. Soma saw a video, a newsreel the other day on cloud seeding on the mainstream media on her phone, where they were doing an interview and they openly admitted that they had been doing cloud seeding since the 1940s. And she was wondering, with a lot of anger, she was wondering what happened to when they were in denial of chemtrails, as she calls them, and all those thousands of people, truthers and lightworkers, that have been speaking out about this for so long. And she included herself in this group that have been speaking out for so long. Hold on. About chemtrails. And she wondered quite angrily how the media could be so dismissive and not take into account all these people that have been called conspiracy theories and mocked. And here the media is announcing quite proudly that they have been cloud seeding since 1940. And yet 10 years ago, this would have been, should a light worker have said this 10 years ago, or a truther, or a psychic, or a medium, or a channeler, whatever you want to label yourselves as, would have been laughed at, and was laughed at. And here yet the media is now announcing. So we wonder how long it will take for this news to spread and for it to become common knowledge. And when we say common knowledge, we mean your neighbors will know. So Soma is a bit confused about what you are really asking, because we have spoken of these technologies before. We have spoken of your Earth changes and their technology being used in a negative way.
Yes, but it's only fairly recently that we've seen pretty striking weather changes. That's why I asked the question.
We're glad you have asked. Soma is not aware of any within the last week or so of any disasters or distressing tsunamis.
They had a foot of snow in Austria a few days ago, or 2 days ago, and they've also had a lot of floods in the Far East, again a few days ago. They've never had snow this early, that deep in Europe.
These weather patterns, these weather manipulations that are used through technology in a negative way are being used to affect your food, growth, to affect the earth in very localized areas, to affect in a negative way, to create, food shortages and the likes of, to create famine, to create disease. There are big is the wrong word to use. There are major changes coming to your monetary systems, to financial systems and services, which would include banks. Your farmers have been protesting for some time now And this has been falling on deaf ears. But your food systems are being affected. Your weather systems are being affected. And these two things are connected, as you will find out in the coming months and years.
I have a question.
We would like to add that all these negative situations you see on your earth, all these emotions that you have, all these negative agendas and manipulations and control and dumbing you down, they all have a positive outcome. They all are a sign, even the targeting that many of you, including Soma, they are all to teach you lessons that you need to learn, or some of you humans need to learn. Many of you are way ahead. Way ahead. Some of you are in relationships and some of you are way ahead. That is okay. But even the targeting, when you see it, if you view it in a positive light, you can use it to your advantage. See the positive. See the negative and take the positive lessons from it. Learn from, take positive action from the negative agenda. Stand in your power. Learn to protect yourself. Learn to stand in your I am presence. Take back your power. Move forward, shine, speak your truth, be vulnerable if you need to. Welcome, Alan.
Welcome. My question is, there's a lot of talk regarding October, November. Other channelers and other mediums have said that there seems to be something brewing in around that time. I was just wondering if you have any information for us regarding that time period this year.
We have been saying for some time, okay, hold on, that there are changes coming to your planet. Oh, bless me. We often, you perhaps won't be aware of this, Alan, but we often do, we would like to, Soma would like to scratch the word perhaps, but we often do give dates, and we often do give, we don't like to use the word predictions, but foresight or possibilities to come. These could be described as predictions. We see, we're showing Soma in terms of a graph, the 10th and 11th month, with the 10th month being important, but the 11th month at a higher grade of intensity. So whatever happens in the 10th month, there will be more situations in the 11th month than there will in the 10th. So we are showing her September, October, and November is up here. So in terms of energy, there is more happening in November than in October. But October is important. You are in for a rough ride. And we are not going to predict this evening. Well, thank you. We're not going to predict this evening what is to come in October and November, but we will say that your channels are correct. Your channelers are correct. The information that they've been bringing forth, including Soma, is accurate. You will see, you will not so much see, but you will become more aware of there has become less discord between them, if that was ever a factor. They are becoming more, as Soma would say, on the same page, practically saying the very same things, just using different words, which is, in fact, actually what has happened. They have all stepped up to a certain level and are on more or less the same level, give or take, operating on the same bandwidth or frequency of channeling. There is not really any more like there used to be. Oh, thank you. We are showing Soma some new information for you that she hasn't seen before. And what we are showing her, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. What we are showing her is a band of frequency of energy where you could say the channelers amongst those of you on Earth are operating. What we are showing her in this moment, as we are downloading this information, is that all of humanity, the collective, humanity as a collective, need to raise to this bandwidth. The vast majority, thank you, and this is very much to do with ascension. So the vast majority, so at the moment you are all on different levels of awareness. We often describe it as being a radio station where you are all on different frequencies. Some of you are at one end. We will not call it a higher or lower, but we will call it one end. And some of you are at the other end, and you cannot understand the language that you are speaking to each other because you are speaking a different language, a different frequency, a different vibration. You cannot understand each other. It's not about right or wrong, and it simply is a different frequency. So let us turn this example of a radio station, let us turn it this way. So you have the channelers up here, and the light workers up here, and the shamans up here, and the mystics up here, and the truthers up here, and the activists up here, operating at a higher frequency. What is happening is that the channelers are now more or less on the same bandwidth of frequency. So they are very much speaking the same messages, the same downloads. Whereas before, there may have been a perception or a perceived reality of good channelers and channelers that were not so popular or not so well known or not so good even. And now this is very much to do with ascension. So as your frequency, your vibration, your consciousness raises, it raises in bandwidths. And this is occurring, humanity is raising consciousness collectively. So you are, we do not use like using the word chosen, but you are the way, thank you, the way showers. You are the way showers for others. So collectively, humanity is raising consciousness, raising awareness, frequency, vibration, which is hold on one second, which is an essential, thank you, an essential part of ascension is the raising of frequency, of vibration. Ascension cannot happen without this process. With the channelers, not just the channelers, but the psychics, the mediums, the light workers, the shaman, the mystic, the truthers, the activists, all operating at a higher frequency or one end of the spectrum. And the rest will follow. You are the way showers. This thank you, this bandwidth that we are explaining where the channelers are, or the light workers are, or the psychics, or the mediums, and there are variations of psychics and mediums. Actually, there are variations of their frequency and what level they're operating at. But this is the bandwidth or level of frequency that all of humanity needs to reach. All of humanity needs to reach collectively in order for you to move into an ascension, because you do it collectively. You do not do it separately. You do not do it separately. You can reach certain stages or levels or even dimensions and frequencies individually, as many of you have done. But to do it collectively, you will reach this level of awareness, and then collectively you will move forward. Some of you, there are many, we use the term humans loosely. There are many beings on your planet now who are in your governments and other systems on Earth who will not make the grade. And the divide will become so great that you will no longer be in an awareness of each other, because the energy between you will become too great that you cannot see each other. It will become, and a good example would be a blind man cannot see. A blind man cannot see, and a deaf man cannot hear. This is a very good example to give you. They will not see you, and they will not hear you. They will not understand your language, because you are operating with outside, thank you. You are operating outside of their spectrum of light. They will not be able to see you. We showed Soma many years ago. around the time of COVID that your planet would multiply into 2 planets, and many of you would hear this as crazy nonsense and say that this is not possible and not believe or understand. But we know that this is the case and was the case when we shared this with her about your Earth not splitting into 2, but multiplying into 2 new Earths, and even beyond that. When we first gave her this example, we described it as 2 Earths, but it is many more than that. Many more than 2. And this is very much to do and connected to different timelines and parallel timelines and parallel Earths and parallel universes, dimensions, timelines, and parallel timelines. It is, those 3 are very connected. Everything is connected. But this divide on your planet is a very physical thing. So much so to the point that this new Earth that you is predicted and prophesized will divide and multiply into 2 Earths, and one will go into a higher spectrum and the other will stay where it was or is, and or drop, thank you, or drop into a lower frequency, a lower vibration, a lower energy than it even already is. And we would like to include and add that the lower frequency beings that are running your planet, that are of a negative ET beings or energy, will be here on this negative or lower vibration frequency planet. The divide will become so great, it will separate itself like oil and water, or 2 magnets to opposing forces, to opposing energies that will no longer be able to be in existence or coexistence with each other, because the oil and water just cannot mix anymore. Enough is enough. You are done. Those of you in a higher frequency are done with this negative energy. You're done. You don't want it anymore. You don't need it anymore. It has served its purpose. It has served its time. It has served the story to bring you, to allow you to ascend. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing. And now it's time for these energies to leave. And now it's time for you to raise your frequency, raise your energy, raise your vibration. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing. And as we are speaking, we are running this beautiful energy of a higher frequency through Soma's body. And you will notice her voice just changed. One of the reasons is because of this energy that we're running through her body. Such a beautiful thing to be part of Ascension and this higher frequency that is without all the negative targeting and technology on your planet, the chemtrails, the food, all systems and all ways that you are targeted that keep you in a lower frequency or bring you from up here down into a lower frequency, which DM sometimes struggles with Soma in his perception or his understanding or his perception of perspective. Oh, here she goes again, being negatively targeted again. This is a process.
Can I just jump in very quickly? I'd hate to interrupt the channeling. I do have to make a move, unfortunately. So I'd like to wish the channel, the Pleiades and Carol, thank you for inviting me on to the group. And thanks everybody for, having a great chat. But I have to make a move. But listen, take care and thank you again for everything. And we hope to see you soon again. I'll have a chat with Carol during the week. I'm sure we can sort something out. But thank you everybody, and thank you again for the channeling.
Cheers, Alan.
Night.
Night.
Bye.
Let us take a break.